1 month after the human fleet arrived at the Council homeworld, the Galactic Tribunal delivered its verdict. High Counselor Vethrek was found guilty of genocide and sentenced to permanent imprisonment on a barren moon at the edge of known space. 17 other Kethrani officials received similar sentences. The Kethrani hegemony itself was stripped of its council seat for 100 years and required to pay reparations. That would take generations to complete. The trial had been broadcast to every inhabited world in the galaxy. Billions of beings watched as the evidence was presented. They saw the documents authorizing the attack. They heard recordings of officials laughing about human casualties. They watched video of children dying in quarantine zones, their small bodies unable to fight the virus that had been designed to kill them. When it was over, the galaxy understood what had been done. And they understood what humanity had chosen not to do in response. Dr. Kevin Morris stood before the tribunal on the final day and accepted recognition for his work saving the human species. He was an old man now, worn down by years of exhaustion and grief. When they handed him the medal, his hands trembled so badly that he nearly dropped it. "I did not do this alone," he said quietly. "Every human on Earth fought to survive. Every doctor, every nurse, every scientist, every parent who kept their children safe during the quarantine. They are the heroes. I just happened to be the one who found the answer." The chamber applauded. Beings from a dozen species stood and honored a human scientist who had defeated a weapon designed to end his kind. It was a moment that would have been impossible 1 month ago. Now it felt like the beginning of something new. Nathan Cole watched from the gallery and felt something he had not felt in years. Hope. The galaxy was changing. Slowly, painfully, but changing nonetheless. Humans were no longer seen as dangerous primitives. They were seen as survivors, as fighters, as a species that had faced extinction and chosen mercy over vengeance. After the ceremony, he found General Walsh standing on a balcony overlooking the city. The old soldier was watching transport ships carrying human colonists who had been stranded on alien worlds for 3 years. They were finally going home. "How does it feel?" Nathan asked. Walsh considered the question carefully. "Strange. I spent 3 years preparing for war. I built the largest fleet in human history. I trained millions of soldiers to fight and die. And in the end, we did not fire a single shot." He smiled faintly. "I think I prefer it this way. The Council will honor the treaties?" "They will. The other species are watching. If the Council breaks its word, they know what we are capable of. Fear is not the foundation I would have chosen for peace, but it will hold until trust can grow." Nathan nodded. He understood. Peace built on fear was fragile, but it was better than no peace at all. Time would tell if the galaxy could learn to see humanity as partners rather than threats. On the Council homeworld, Ambassador Linda Hayes was formally appointed as humanity's first High Ambassador to the Reformed Council. She stood on the platform where she had once been dragged away as a prisoner and accepted the position with quiet dignity. "Humanity did not ask for this war," she said. "We did not seek conflict with any species. We only wanted to explore the stars and find our place among the civilizations that came before us. Instead, we were targeted for extinction. We were dismissed as too violent, too aggressive, too primitive to deserve survival. Those who made that judgment were wrong." She looked around the chamber at the counselors who had once ignored her existence. "We are not perfect. No species is. We have made mistakes, and we will make more. But we have also shown what humans do when faced with annihilation. We fight, we adapt, we survive. And when we win, we offer mercy to those who showed us none. That is who we are. That is what makes us human." The applause that followed was genuine. Not everyone in the chamber trusted humanity. Not everyone believed the peace would last. But they had seen something in the past month that challenged everything they thought. They knew about the young species from the small blue planet. Humans could be warriors, but they could also be healers. They could build weapons of terrible power, but they could also choose not to use them. They were unpredictable, yes. Dangerous, certainly. But perhaps that unpredictability could be a gift rather than a curse. 2 weeks later, Nathan Cole stood on a hillside outside Chicago and watched children playing in a park. The city had been rebuilt during the quarantine years. New buildings rose where old ones had fallen. Trees had been planted along streets that had once been lined with the sick and dying. Life was returning to normal. His sister Sarah found him there. She was 40 years old now, her hair streaked with gray, her hands rough from years of factory work. She had helped build the ships that saved humanity. She had never asked for recognition. She never would. "You are leaving tomorrow?" she asked. "Yes, the first diplomatic vessel is departing for Council Space. Ambassador Hayes wants me on her staff." Sarah smiled. "My brother, the diplomat." Mother would have laughed. She would have been proud. She was always proud of you, Nathan. Even when you were a terrible child who broke her favorite vase. They laughed together, and for a moment the weight of the past 3 years lifted from Nathan's shoulders. This was what they had fought for. Not revenge. Not glory. Just the simple joy of being alive and being with the people they loved. General Walsh approached them slowly. He was retiring next month, passing command to younger officers who would lead humanity into its new future. But he had one more thing to do first. "Commander Cole, Ambassador Hayes is waiting." Nathan embraced his sister one final time. "I will visit when I can." "You better. I am not losing you again." He walked to the transport that would carry him to orbit. The diplomatic vessel was waiting, loaded with ambassadors and scholars and artists who would represent humanity to the galaxy. Not soldiers. Not weapons. Just people who wanted to build bridges instead of walls. As the transport rose into the sky, Nathan looked down at Earth, the blue planet that everyone had given up for dead, the world that had refused to die, the home of a species that had faced extinction and emerged stronger than ever before. The galaxy had made a deadly mistake. When they thought human silence meant surrender, they had learned that silence could hide many things: grief, preparation, determination, and the quiet strength of a species that would never stop fighting for its survival. The transport passed through the clouds and into the endless darkness of space. Ahead lay the stars. Behind lay the world that had shaped humanity into what it had become. Nathan smiled and whispered words that only he could hear. "We are ready." And the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The Council homeworld had never seen so many ships in orbit. Human vessels filled the sky like stars that had fallen too close to the planet. The people below looked up and felt fear crawling through their hearts. The species they had celebrated as extinct had returned, and they had brought an army. High Counselor Vethrak stood in his private chambers and watched the fleet through his window. His scales had turned pale, a sign of terror that he could not hide. Everything had gone wrong. The perfect plan had failed. Humanity was alive, and they were angry. His communication device buzzed. It was Admiral Krentok, speaking from a human ship where he was being held as a prisoner. "High Counselor, the humans are requesting your presence at the Council chamber. They wish to address all 12 species. They are giving you 1 hour to comply. And if I refuse?" They did not say, but I believe refusing would be unwise. Vethrak ended the call without responding. He had no choice. The human fleet could destroy the planet if they wished. He had to face them and hope that their primitive sense of morality would prevent them from doing what he would have done in their position. 1 hour later, the council chamber was filled with representatives from every species in the Alliance. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Guards stood at every entrance, but everyone knew they were useless. If humans wanted violence, no amount of guards would stop them. The main doors opened. Admiral George Patterson walked in first, wearing a simple uniform without medals or decorations. Behind him came Nathan Cole, Susan Blake, and 200 other humans who represented the survivors of the genocide. They walked in silence, their faces calm, their eyes carrying the weight of everything they had endured. Linda Hayes was already waiting in the chamber. When she saw Nathan, tears filled her eyes. She had believed for 3 years that everyone she loved was dead. Now they stood before her, alive and strong and refusing to be broken. Admiral Patterson climbed to the central platform and looked at the counselors arranged around him. He spoke quietly, but his voice carried to every corner of the room. 3 years ago, the Kethrani hegemony released a biological weapon into Earth's atmosphere. The virus was designed to kill every human being on our planet. 47 million people died before our scientists found a cure. For 3 years, we lived in isolation, quarantined from the galaxy, fighting every day to survive. The Council knew what the Kethrani had done. Some of you approved of it. Others simply looked away and waited for us to die. He paused and let the weight of his words settle over the assembly. We could have come here with anger. We could have brought our fleet to burn your worlds the way you burned ours. We have the power to do it. Make no mistake about that. But we did not come for revenge. We came for justice. Councilor Miraset stood slowly. Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to speak. Admiral Patterson, on behalf of the Ilori people, I apologize for what was done to your species. We should have stopped it. We should have spoken against it. Our silence makes us complicit, and we accept responsibility for our failure. Other counselors began to stand. Some offered apologies. Others admitted their knowledge of the attack. A few tried to excuse themselves by claiming ignorance, but the evidence Linda Hayes had gathered proved their lies. One by one, the truth emerged. The attack on Earth had not been a secret. Half the council had known. Most had approved Dodd, only Vethrak remained silent. He sat in his seat and stared at the humans with cold hatred. He would not apologize. He would not admit guilt. In his mind, he had done nothing wrong. Humans were dangerous. Eliminating them had been the logical choice. The only mistake was failing to finish the job. Nathan Cole stepped forward. High Counselor Vethrak, do you have anything to say to the people you tried to murder? Vethrak smiled. It was a cruel expression that revealed rows of sharp teeth. I regret only that you survived. Humanity is a virus, Commander. You spread across the galaxy, consuming everything in your path. You breed war and conflict wherever you go. I did what was necessary to protect civilization from your corruption. If I could do it again, I would use a stronger weapon. The chamber fell silent. Even the counselors who had supported the attack looked horrified by his words. This was not politics. This was not strategy. This was pure hatred, spoken without shame or regret. Admiral Patterson nodded slowly. Thank you for your honesty, High Counselor. It makes what comes next much easier. He turned to address the full council. We are not here to destroy you. We are not here to conquer your worlds or enslave your people. We are here to change the rules of the galaxy. First, High Counselor Vethrak and all those who authorized the attack on Earth will stand trial for genocide. Not a human trial. A galactic tribunal with judges from every species. Second, new laws will be written to prevent any species from using biological weapons against another. Third, humanity will take a permanent seat on this council. Not because we demand it, but because we have earned it. And if we refuse? Someone asked. Patterson looked at the speaker with something like sadness. Then we will leave. We will take our fleet and our technology and our people, and we will build our own civilization far from yours. But know this. If you refuse, and if anyone ever attacks us again, we will not show mercy a second time. This is the only chance you will get to make things right." The vote was not even close. The council accepted every demand. Vethrak was removed from his position and taken into custody. Other conspirators were arrested. New trees were drafted. For the first time in galactic history, a species that had been targeted for extinction had not only survived, but had reshaped the entire political order. Linda Hayes found Nathan in a quiet hallway after the session ended. She embraced him without words, holding on like she was afraid he would disappear. "I thought you were all dead," she whispered. "I thought I was the last one." Nathan held her tightly. "You kept fighting even when you believed that. You never gave up. That is why we are here, Linda, because humans never give up." She pulled back and looked at him with tears streaming down her face. "What happens now?" "Now we go home. We rebuild. We heal," he smiled gently. "And we show the galaxy what humanity can be when we are not fighting for our lives." Through the window, the human fleet hung in the sky like a promise and a warning. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity. Now they would learn to respect them. It was a beginning, not an ending. And that was enough. The Council investigation fleet entered the Sol system with the confidence of predators approaching a corpse. Admiral Krentok of the Kethrani stood on the bridge of his flagship and smiled at the darkness ahead. 150 warships followed behind him. Enough firepower to destroy a planet. Enough cargo capacity to strip Earth of every valuable resource. "Begin scanning for survivors," he ordered. "Though I doubt we will find any." His crew obeyed without question. They had all heard the stories about humans. Violent creatures, unpredictable, dangerous when cornered. But the virus had done its work. 3 years of silence proved that humanity was finished. Now the Kethrani would claim the spoils. Far behind them, on the Council homeworld, Ambassador Linda Hayes walked into the grand chamber where the Council was meeting. She had not been invited. She did not care. In her hand, she held a data device containing proof of the greatest crime in galactic history. Guards moved to stop her, but Counselor Miraset raised her hand. "Let her speak. She has that right." Vethrak looked down at the human woman with cold amusement. "Ambassador Hayes, how unexpected. Have you come to mourn your species one final time?" Linda climbed the steps to the central platform. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her voice was steady. "I have come to show you what you already know, High Counselor. The truth about what happened to Earth." She activated the device. Holographic documents filled the air above the platform. Schematics of the biological weapon. Orders signed by Vethrak himself. Communications between Kethrani scientists discussing casualty projections. The evidence was complete and undeniable. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Some counselors looked away in shame. Others stared at Vethrak with growing horror. Only the Kethrani delegation remained calm. "This is a fabrication," Vethrak said. "Human propaganda designed to—" "It came from your own embassy," Linda interrupted. "Your own files. Your own words. You murdered 8 billion people, and you thought nobody would ever know." Vethrak stood slowly. His scales darkened with anger. "Even if this were true, what does it matter? Humanity was a threat to galactic stability. Their aggression would have led to war. We did what was necessary to protect civilization. You committed genocide. We removed a danger. And soon my fleet will confirm that the danger is gone forever. Guards, remove this human from the chamber." Linda did not resist as they dragged her away. She had done what she came to do. The truth was out. Now everything depended on what happened in the Sol system. Admiral Krentok's fleet approached Earth's orbit with weapons ready. They had detected the defense platforms hours ago, but the scans showed no life signs. The platforms were automated, running on backup power, probably programmed to activate if anything approached. It meant nothing. Move through the defensive line, Krentok ordered. Destroy any platform that fires on us. The fleet advanced. The platforms remained silent. Krentok allowed himself to relax. The humans were truly gone. This would be easier than he had expected. Then his sensor officer made a strange sound. Something between a gasp and a whimper. "Admiral, I am detecting energy signatures." "Many energy signatures. From where?" "Everywhere." The darkness around them came alive. Ships emerged from behind asteroids and moons. They rose from the surfaces of planets. They dropped out of jump space in perfect formation. Thousands of vessels surrounded the Council fleet in seconds. Human vessels. Warships bristling with weapons that Krentok did not recognize. Engines glowing with power that should have been impossible. "Admiral." George Patterson's voice filled every communication channel in the system. He was a man of 50 years who had spent the last 3 years building the fleet that now surrounded the enemy. His voice was calm, almost gentle. "Admiral Krentok, you have entered human territory without permission. Your fleet is surrounded. Power down your weapons and prepare to be escorted to Earth for processing." Krentok stared at the tactical display. Red dots covered every corner of the screen. His 150 ships were surrounded by more than 2,000 human vessels. The numbers were impossible. The technology was impossible. Everything about this situation was impossible. "This cannot be," he whispered. "You made a mistake," Patterson continued. "You thought we were dead. You thought the virus killed us. It did not. We survived. We recovered. We built. And now we are going to show you what happens when you try to destroy humanity." Krentok's hands trembled as he reached for the communication controls. He opened a channel to the Council homeworld. "Hi, Counselor. This is Admiral Krentok. The humans are alive. They have a fleet larger than anything we have ever seen. We need reinforcements immediately." Vethrak's response came quickly. Too quickly. "Impossible. Maintain your position and attack. Human technology is inferior. You have nothing to fear." Krentok looked at the ships surrounding him. He looked at the weapons pointed at his hull. He thought about Vethrak sitting safely in the Council chamber, thousands of light years away, ordering him to die for a lie. "Hi, Counselor. With respect, you are wrong. I gave you an order, Admiral, and I am refusing it. We cannot win this fight. We cannot even survive it. I will not sacrifice my crews for your pride." He closed the channel and turned to his officers. "Power down all weapons. Signal our surrender. And pray that humans are more merciful than we deserve." On the human flagship, Nathan Cole stood beside Admiral Patterson and watched the Council fleet go dark. No shots had been fired. No lives had been lost. Humanity had won without spilling a single drop of blood. "What happens now?" Nathan asked. Patterson turned away from the window. "Now we go to the Council. We show them that we survived. We show them what they did to us. And we make sure that nobody ever tries to destroy humanity again." Nathan thought about Linda Hayes, still fighting alone on the Council homeworld. He thought about the billions who had died before Dr. Morris found the cure. He thought about the 3 years of suffering that had forged humanity into something the galaxy had never seen before. They had wanted revenge. They had prepared for war. But now that the moment had arrived, Nathan felt something unexpected. Not rage, not hatred, just a deep, quiet sadness for everything that had been lost. "Will we punish them?" he asked. Patterson was silent for a long moment. We could. We have the power to burn their worlds and shatter their fleets. We could make them suffer the way they made us suffer. He shook his head slowly. But that is not who we are. We will demand justice. We will demand change. But we will not become the monsters they believed us to be. Nathan nodded. It was the human way. Fight when necessary. Win when possible. But never lose the humanity that made the fight worth winning. The fleet began moving toward the Council homeworld. Earth was silent no longer, and the galaxy would never forget what that silence had hidden. The Galaxy Council chamber fell silent when High Counselor Vethrak raised his clawed hand. 12 species sat in a circle around the central platform, their eyes fixed on the holographic image of a blue planet spinning slowly in the darkness. Earth, the homeworld of humanity. A world that had not sent a single transmission in 3 galactic standard years. We must accept the truth, Vethrak said, his scales shimmering under the chamber lights. Humanity has destroyed itself. Their silence proves what we always knew. They were too aggressive, too violent, too primitive to survive among the stars. Counselor Miraset of the Elori shifted uncomfortably in her seat. She was young by council standards, barely 200 years old, and she had always found humans fascinating rather than frightening. We do not know what happened to them, she said softly. Perhaps they need help. Perhaps we should send aid. Laughter echoed through the chamber. The Marth representative slapped his thick tentacles against his desk. Aid? To humans? They would sooner shoot our ships than accept our charity. No, young one. The humans are gone, and the galaxy is safer for it. Vethrak nodded slowly, but something dark flickered in his golden eyes. Something that looked almost like satisfaction. I propose we send an investigation fleet to the Sol system. We must confirm humanity's fate and secure their territory before pirates and scavengers claim it. The vote passed easily. Only Miraset voted against it. Far from the council chamber, on a neutral trading station called Port Nexus, a human man sat alone in a dark room. Commander Nathan Cole had not slept properly in 3 years. He had been on a diplomatic mission when Earth went silent. One day, he was receiving messages from his sister in Chicago. The next day, there was nothing. No news, no explanations. Just silence that stretched across the void like a wound that would not heal. Nathan was 42 years old, with gray appearing in his brown hair and lines around his eyes that had not been there before. He had served in the Earth Defense Force for 20 years. He had fought pirates and negotiated treaties and believed that humanity would one day earn its place among the elder species. Now he spent his days drinking cheap alcohol and watching the stars through a dirty window. His communication device beeped. Nathan ignored it. It beeped again. He reached over and was about to turn it off when he saw the frequency. It was an old Earth military channel, one that had been dead for 3 years. His hands trembled as he opened the message. There were no words. Just a series of numbers that most people would think was random noise. But Nathan recognized the pattern. It was a code he had learned in basic training. A code that meant one simple thing. We are alive. Come home. Nathan stood up so fast that his chair crashed to the floor. His heart pounded in his chest. Someone on Earth had survived. Someone was trying to reach him. He grabbed his jacket and ran out of his room without looking back. On the council homeworld, Ambassador Linda Hayes walked through gardens that glowed with bioluminescent flowers. She was the last human diplomat in council space, a woman of 55 years who had dedicated her life to building bridges between species. When Earth went silent, the council had offered her asylum. She accepted because she had nowhere else to go. Linda had spent 3 years listening to aliens celebrate humanity's apparent death. She had smiled and nodded and pretended that their words did not cut her like knives. She had learned to be invisible, to be forgotten, to be harmless. But she had also learned to listen, and she had heard things that troubled her deeply. Tonight she had broken into the Kethrani embassy. It was a foolish risk, but she no longer cared about being careful. She needed answers. She needed to know why Earth had really gone silent. The file she found made her blood run cold. Project Silence, a biological agent designed to target human DNA, developed in secret by Kethrani scientists, deployed through automated probes that entered the Sol system 4 years ago. Expected casualty rate of 99%. Within 18 months, Linda sat in the darkness of the embassy office and felt tears running down her face. Earth had not destroyed itself. Earth had been murdered, and the Galaxy Council had done nothing because they wanted humanity gone. She copied the files to a hidden device and slipped back into the night. She did not know what she would do with this information, but she knew that someone had to pay for what they had done to her people. Nathan reached the docking bay and found his ship surrounded by station security. A tall Kethrani officer blocked his path. "Commander Cole, you are not authorized to leave the station. By order of the Galaxy Council, all humans are restricted to designated areas until further notice." Nathan looked at the officer. He looked at his ship. He thought about his sister and his parents and the billions of people on Earth who might still be alive. Then he did something he had not done in 3 years. He smiled. "I am sorry," he said, "but I'm going home." The fight was short and brutal. Nathan had spent 20 years learning how to survive against species that were bigger, stronger, and faster than humans. He broke the officer's arm, knocked out 2 guards, and was inside his ship before anyone could call for backup. The engines roared to life, and he shot out of the docking bay like a bullet from a gun. Warning signals flashed on his console. Ships were launching to pursue him. The station was sending demands for his surrender. Nathan ignored all of it. He punched in the coordinates for Earth and activated his jump drive. The stars stretched into lines of light around him. Then he was gone, racing across the galaxy toward a world that everyone believed was the dot in the council chamber. Vethrak received word of Nathan's escape. He was not concerned. One human in one small ship could not change anything. The investigation fleet would reach Earth in 2 weeks. They would confirm that humanity was extinct. They would claim human territory and technology, and the galaxy would forget that humans had ever existed. Vethrak allowed himself a small smile. The plan had worked perfectly. Humans were too dangerous to live among civilized species. Their aggression, their unpredictability, their refusal to accept their place in the natural order. All of it had made them a threat that needed to be eliminated. Project Silence had been necessary. It had been merciful even. A quick death was better than the wars that would have come if humanity had been allowed to grow stronger. He looked at the holographic image of Earth one last time. Such a small world. Such a fragile species. It was almost sad that they were gone. But Vethrak did not know that Nathan Cole was already halfway to Earth. He did not know that Linda Hayes had evidence of his crimes hidden in her quarters. And he did not know the most important truth of all. Earth was not dead. Earth waiting. And humanity had not forgotten how to fight. 3 years ago, Dr. Kevin Morris was working late in his laboratory in Geneva when his computer started screaming. Alarms filled the room. Red lights flashed on every screen. Something was wrong with the atmospheric sensors. Something was very wrong. Kevin was a virologist, a man of 60 years who had spent his entire career studying diseases that came from other worlds. He had always feared that someday an alien pathogen would reach Earth. He had written papers about it. He had begged governments to prepare for it. Nobody had listened. Now his worst nightmare was happening. The sensors showed microscopic particles spreading through the upper atmosphere. They were falling like invisible snow across every continent. Kevin analyzed them and felt his heart stop. These were not natural organisms. They were weapons. Biological weapons designed with terrifying precision. And they were targeting human DNA. Kevin ran to his phone and called the World Health Organization. He called the United Nations. He called every government official who would answer. Within hours, the world knew the truth. Someone had attacked Earth with a virus designed to kill every human being on the planet. The symptoms appeared within days. Fever, weakness, difficulty breathing. Hospitals filled with patients faster than doctors could treat them. The death toll rose by the thousands, then by the millions. Panic spread as fast as the disease. But humanity did not surrender. General Henry Walsh took command of the global response. He was a man of 68 years, a soldier who had fought in 3 wars and had scars on his body to prove it. He gathered the leaders of every nation in a bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains and gave them a choice. Fight together or die alone. They chose to fight. Captain Susan Blake commanded Earth's orbital defense network. She was 40 years old with short black hair and eyes that had seen too much death. When the general asked her to do the impossible, she did not hesitate. Within 72 hours, she had sealed every exit from the Sol system. No ships could leave. No transmissions could escape. Earth went completely silent. The galaxy would think humanity was dead. That was the plan. Dr. Kevin Morris led the medical response. He worked 20 hours a day in a sealed laboratory, studying the virus, looking for weaknesses, testing treatments that failed again and again. He watched colleagues die around him. He caught the virus himself and survived only because his body was strong enough to fight it off. But he did not give up. The first year was the hardest. 40 million people died before Kevin found a treatment that could slow the virus. Strict quarantine protocols kept the rest of the population alive. Cities became sealed zones. Families lived in isolation. Children grew up without ever seeing their neighbors in person. But humans adapted. They always did. By the second year, Kevin had developed a vaccine. Production facilities worked around the clock to create enough doses for 7 billion people. The death toll slowed, then stopped. Humanity was going to survive. General Walsh used those 2 years for something else. He knew that the attack had not come from nature. Someone had tried to commit genocide against humanity. And when Earth emerged from isolation, that someone would try again. So Walsh ordered the construction of the largest military fleet in human history. Shipyards that had once built cargo vessels now built warships. Factories that had made cars now made weapons. Scientists who had worked on medical research now designed new technologies that would give humanity an edge against any enemy. Every resource on Earth went toward 2 goals. Survival and revenge. Now Nathan Cole's ship dropped out of jump space at the edge of the Sol system. He expected to find debris and death. Instead, he found a wall of energy that blocked his path. Defense platforms surrounded the solar system like a shell of steel and fire. Unknown vessel. Identify yourself immediately or you will be destroyed. Nathan's hand shook as he transmitted his identification codes. This is Commander Nathan Cole, Earth Defense Force, serial number 7-4-2-9. I received a signal. Someone told me to come home. Silence. Then a new voice came through his speakers. A voice he recognized. Nathan, is that really you? Susan? Susan Blake? Hold your position. I am sending an escort to bring you in. Welcome home, Commander. You have no idea how good it is to hear your voice. 2 hours later, Nathan stood on the bridge of the orbital station and stared at Earth through a massive window. The planet looked the same as he remembered. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds drifting across the surface. But everything around it had changed. Thousands of ships filled orbit. Defense platforms bristled with weapons he had never seen before. The planet that everyone thought was dead had become a fortress. General Walsh entered the bridge. He was older than Nathan remembered, his hair completely white now, his face carved with lines of exhaustion and determination. But his eyes were still sharp, still burning with purpose. "Commander Cole, thank you for coming." Nathan turned to face him. "General, what happened here?" "The Council thinks everyone is dead. They are sending a fleet to claim our territory." Walsh nodded slowly. "We know. We have been monitoring their communications since the day we went silent. We know everything they have said about us. Every celebration of our death. Every plan to steal our world." He paused. "We also know who attacked us." "Who?" "The Kethrani. High Counselor Vethrak personally authorized the biological weapon. The Council knew about it. They did nothing because they wanted us gone." Nathan felt rage building in his chest. He had spent 20 years trying to prove that humanity deserved respect. He had believed that diplomacy could work. He had been a fool. "What are we going to do?" he asked. General Walsh looked out at the fleet surrounding Earth. Hundreds of ships. Thousands of weapons. Millions of soldiers ready to fight. 3 years of suffering had forced humanity into something new. Something dangerous. "We are going to show them their mistake," Walsh said quietly. "The Council fleet will arrive in 2 weeks. They expect to find a dead world. Instead, they will find us. And they will learn that humanity does not die so easily." Nathan stood beside the general and watched the ships moving through the darkness. He thought about his sister, who had survived the virus and now worked in a weapons factory. He thought about Linda Hayes, alone on the Council homeworld, still believing that everyone she loved was dead. He thought about the billions of humans who had suffered and fought and refused to surrender. The galaxy had tried to kill them. It had failed. Now humanity would answer, and the answer would shake the stars.